What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And what time is it? It's time for me to do exactly what everybody else does at this point in the year if they're part of the wrestling community on the internet, and pretend that you're an individual and that you're the first person that did it, which is absolutely not the case. I'm going to give you my fantasy booking for Wrestlemania 41, and it's not going to be, oh my god, this is what I think is going to happen. This is going to be Spaz Phoenix's Wrestlemania 41 extravaganza, all the stuff that I want to see and definitely won't see. So if you're up for that ride, buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Few caveats before we get into the fantasy booking, the card I've put together. A, there's way too many matches on this card. B, it's way too long. C, there's a bunch of shit on here that's definitely not happening. Another caveat I should put on this as well is there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of people, I should say, that I did not include in this card, just because I couldn't make them fit. LA Knight's not on this card. Sami Zayn's not on this card. I meant to put Liv Morgan versus Alexa Bliss on this card, and they are not on this card. But The Rock, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins are not on this card, even though I'm sure they'll be on everybody else's. Now, the Alexa Bliss thing versus Liv Morgan was a match that I wanted to put on here, and even I was saying, okay, this card's getting a bit too long, but Alexa Bliss versus Liv Morgan would be a lot of fun. But Alexa Bliss brings me to the announcement of her return, obviously, at the Royal Rumble, which was awesome. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of Shotzi Blackheart, who was supposed to be in that spot, if you believe the dirt sheets. So what I've done is I've given one sort of NXT showcase match for the card. It's Shotzi Blackheart, Gigi Dolan, and Tatum Paxley, otherwise known as Chemical X apparently now, taking on Fatal Influence, which is Fallon Henley, Gigi Dolan, and Jasmine Nix. Now, this match has happened on NXT, if you're not watching NXT, but you know what? I like everybody involved here. I specifically love that we're giving Fallon Henley a push. Shotzi Blackheart's my girl. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, I met Shotzi at Destiny. She's fucking amazing, and I'm incredibly biased. This is a match I want to see. It would probably be on the kickoff. It would be a lot of fun, and I don't even really care who wins. Maybe Shotzi gets the win, and later on down the line, she gets another shot at the North American Championship on NXT. But NXT's got the greatest women's division in the world. WWE has a pretty smack dab women's division across the board. What doesn't get a whole lot of attention is the women's tag team championships. Now, you better believe I'm getting those belts off Naomi and Bianca Belair before WrestleMania. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of people on here that really don't get the shine that they deserve, in my opinion, with the exception of one team. It's going to be a fatal four-way match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. It's going to be Michin and B-Fab versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Illidan and Alba Fire. Obviously, they're going to be in there. And Io Sky and Kairi Sane, if Kairi Sane is, available and all that kind of thing. But I'm pretending that she is because it's my fantasy card. I don't think you can go wrong here. Illidan, Alba Fire have held them. KC and KC have held them. Damage Control don't really need anything to boost them. I would kind of love, honestly, if she's not going to continue chasing Chelsea Green, which is something I'm going to address later on. Michin and B-Fab have sort of got this new fostering tag team, and throwing the belts on them on a WrestleMania stage wouldn't be a bad push for Mia Yim / Michin, who always feels like she's scratching the surface of something. Maybe this can be what gets it done. B-Fab, I don't know if they've intentionally moved B-Fab away from the Street Profits, because the Street Profits are kind of dickheads now, and they want to keep her a babyface. It kind of has remnants of what happened with her and Hit Row, and yeah, she's the only one left. Ashante went back to NXT and Top Dollars in TNA, and that other guy's doing some other stuff over in the other company where you get over by hitting people with bricks. B-Fab is the only one left from Hit Row on main roster WWE, and you know what? She ain't that bad. She's not setting the world on fire, but she ain't that bad. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter always fall under a bit of scrutiny from a lot of people. I don't really get it, other than people that got really weird around COVID time. Illidan and Alba Fire, if you followed this channel for any length of time, you know they're right up my street. And Io Sky and Kairi Sane are fucking phenomenal. And Damage Control in general could use something, because one of their members is always injured. We hear that Asuka's cleared and on her way for a comeback. Dakota Kai has had another injury with the concussion protocols and all that kind of thing. Kairi Sane and Io could be the tag champions. It would be absolutely fine. And as I say, they don't always do a great job of showcasing all the belts at WrestleMania. This is one of those WrestleManias where they could really stand with showcasing all the titles. You have two nights, there really isn't any excuse. And even if you didn't do this, you could take this, because it is the belt that floats over all three brands, shine a light on the fact that it's the belt that floats over all three brands, take this exact match and do it on Stand and Deliver before WrestleMania Night 1, and it would be a really cool marquee thing for the NXT pay-per-view as well. Speaking of tag team titles, we got the Raw Tag Team Champions, the World Tag Team Champions, the War Raiders. I still have to get used to the fact that we get to call them the War Raiders again. Now, they've broken away from a lot of the old cartoony Viking stuff that they were doing, which for the most part is great. It makes them look like a dominating force. It makes them look like guys that should be taken seriously. It makes them look like guys that are going to kick your ass. But I also like goofy shit. I do go with the Simon Miller mentality every now and then of goofy wrestling for life. So for one night only, bring back the Viking rules match. It's also a fatal four-way because I want to get a lot of people on my card. I want to get a lot of people a payday. The War Raiders versus the Creed Brothers versus Otis and Tozawa versus A-Town Down Under. Now, A-Town Down Under can get squashed by the 5 big guys and Tozawa that they're going up against. They will be comedy, foil, villain guys. Otis and Tozawa will do some great comedy. Creed Brothers are funny in their own right, but they could also have Chad Gable in their corner, or he could get chased off by one of the luchadors because that's his story right now, and that could be a bit funny. And you could just push it to the point where it's funny until the War Raiders kill you. I'm not going to lie. I like the Creed Brothers. Otis and Tozawa definitely have a place. I've got a really big spot in my heart for A-Town Down Under because I think they're better than a lot of people give them credit for. But this is the War Raiders match to win, and I think they would. And I don't have predictions for all of these matches. I mean, my biases are going to shine through on some of them. But this one, we brought back the Viking rules for one night to show you that we are still Vikings at heart. Righty, righty, rah. If that's not enough, the SmackDown Tag Team titles, the WWE Tag Team titles, currently held by DIY after the Royal Rumble because of shady shenanigans. Now, you would think that DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns versus Street Profits, maybe versus Pretty Deadly, would be the direction to go from there. That would be the logical thing, 4 teams that all want to get an equal part of each other, but it's Spaz, and Spaz is selfish, and Spaz wants to wave a finger at everybody that says WWE that doesn't do tag team wrestling and shove a little more tag team wrestling down your throats. So what we have is the SmackDown WWE Tag Team title gauntlet match, and it's not a gauntlet like most of the time happens on WWE, where everybody else goes through the gauntlet, and the last entrant is the champions because they have championship advantage. No. We've got DIY as the champions, and they'll be the first ones in there. Their first opponents will be the Motor City Machine Guns, followed by Pretty Deadly. I can speak, I swear. I'm excited. Followed by Los Garza, followed by the new heel Street Profits, followed by Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu, followed by the OC, because, oh yeah, they're on the SmackDown roster, followed by any combination you want of the Wyatt Six, who are now on SmackDown, and may or may not have Alexa Bliss with them by that point. Now, because I like shithead heels, would I love it if DIY somehow ran the gauntlet? Yes, but I mean, Tama and Fatu would be awesome. The OC, one of them is injured. I don't know who. I haven't looked it up. It's not really any of our business. But if they're making a grand return for this match, it would be a great triumphant return for them to come back with titles. Or the Wyatt Six picking up belts wouldn't hurt my feelings either. Street Profits being the new heel turn, I think a lot of people would lean in their direction. My computer is flashing at me for some reason. Let's get rid of that. Great for you guys on audio, I know. But just a plethora of, yeah, we got tag teams between the women in the Fatal 4-Way that I've put together there, the War Raiders, the Creed Brothers, Otis and Tozawa, A-Town Down, DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, Pretty Deadly, Los Garzas, the Street Profits, Tama and Fatu, who are basically a twosome at this point, the OC, and any like I say, any combination of the Wyatt Six. That's your 3 tag team divisions taken care of. Obviously spread them out among the 2 nights. Something else I should mention, I do not have an order for this. Like I said, Chemical X versus Fatal Influence would probably be a pre-show match just because of where NXT sits in the general state of things. Maybe the women's tag as well, unfortunately, with the way those things kind of go. Obviously, SmackDown titles on one night, Raw titles on another night. wherever they fit, wherever they would go. Another person I don't have on here, because I haven't done any celebrity stuff, I haven't got like a Bad Bunny match or a Logan Paul match, which I'm sure will please a lot of people, even though Logan Paul's really awesome. You're just not supposed to say so. Another one that I want to see, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's just because I want to see the match. It's Finn Balor versus JD McDonough. Now, this is going to come from, obviously, JD McDonough not being injured and fucking himself up and getting a rib through his lung. But magically, if JD McDonough could be back for WrestleMania, it would be Finn versus JD in some way, form, or fashion. Either Finn has already destroyed the Judgment Day, and JD comes back and says, oh, what the fuck did you do? Or Finn has the Judgment Day on his side, and the Judgment Day blame JD for all their failings, and it's easy to do so because he's injured and he's been out and whatever. I would love it if the two of them fight and the rest of the Judgment Day just say, fuck it, you guys are nuts. It is, the real person side of it is it's a teacher-student thing. Finn Balor trained JD McDonough, for those people out there that don't know. And people always said JD is like, oh, he's just a mini Finn Balor. Look at him, he's a Finn Balor bobblehead and all those negative things. I would just love to see these guys, who probably know each other better than they know themselves, get in the ring and shut a lot of people up. I think the match would be fantastic. JD McDonough, who is a much more comical character here than he was in NXT UK or in NXT. If you don't believe me, there was a time during the pandemic, and I know we don't want to go back to the pandemic era stuff, but when there was two different cruiserweight championships, because Finn Balor won the title, and then he was over in the UK when everybody got locked down and they needed a new champion, and they crowned, who was it? Santos Escobar, I think. And the two of them had a ladder match for the undisputed NXT Cruiserweight Championship that you need to go see if you're one of the people out there that thinks just because he's a bit goofy that JD McDonough can't wrestle, or Jordan Devlin as he was at the time. Finn Balor, if he's going to bust his ass for anybody, it's going to be somebody that was a former protege, a former legit student of him, and I just want to see the match, and I don't care who wins. Okay, moving on. It's not my focus at WrestleMania, but it has to happen, and I'd rather have this than have them still have the women's tag titles. We're going to get Jade versus Naomi versus Bianca Belair. Now, do we get that because Jade came back to say that Naomi attacked me so that she could take my title and be Belair's partner? Do we have it that Bianca Belair did it herself because she thought Naomi would be a better partner? Do we have it where the two of them did it together because they've known each other longer and they wanted to be the team with the belts, and then they bicker amongst each other, passing who should get more of the blame from Jade, and they turn on each other because they don't want to feel the wrath of Jade? At the end of the day, Jade Cargill should win this, because I want Jade Cargill out of the tag team division. I want to see her as a solo star. I want to see her develop more. I want to see her mixing it up with the Rhea Ripleys and the Charlotte Flairs of the world, which was teased when she first arrived before they sort of shunted her into the tag team division. So it's going to happen. It won't be my prime focus on the night, as you guys know, because Belair and Naomi get booked pretty damn strongly, and if this match comes together, especially as a triple threat, I don't like Jade's chances with the booking committee over in WWE. But I will be watching this match, hoping that Jade wins. She's the new up-and-coming person and whatever. There's a lot of people that are using Jade as a weapon of, oh, look, WWE's using her so much better than AEW did, which is true. But if I'm in the shoes of Jade Cargill, I'd be like, hey, I started over there. I have friends over there. Don't use me as a chess piece because you want to make fun of the other guys just because the other guys suck. How about you cheer for me because you want to see me do well? And I include myself in that. I was one of the ones that said, look at various people that have come from AEW. Look how better WWE is treating them. And it's not good in the long run. There's conversations to be had about it, obviously, but then all you're doing is labeling them as ex-AEW people, or, the people with the AEW stank on them, like we used to say about people from WCW. And if you're Jade, that's gotta suck. So I would love to see her break out of that conversation, which has, like I said, it's been instituted by me as much as it has been by anybody else that shares my my opinion on that. See her break out of that, break away from the tag team with Bianca Belair, show up, show out. If you're going to promote Bianca Belair as a powerhouse wrestler, have her be beaten by the obviously larger powerhouse. And Naomi can go be Mrs. Uso in the corner somewhere. Anyways, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Now, gotta say, this is more, and we're going to talk more about the behind-the-scenes stuff when I get Jake back. Also, there's no State of Wrestling this week. Jake's having a few technical issues. So if you're on Twitter, if you're on X, go over to at Countdown Ended and just send Jake some love, because he's probably pretty frustrated right now. Jake, we love you. Get back on the channel soon. But Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. Damian Priest eliminated Drew McIntyre from the Rumble. Apparently it didn't go as planned. Apparently Drew McIntyre's pissed about how it didn't go the way it was supposed to go at the Rumble. And he's pissed off in general that he has to have a feud with Damian Priest, which is super unfortunate, because you could play out the story of them since last year's WrestleMania. And they're two big guys, heavy hands and all that kind of thing. One of the few people that could stand in the ring and look Drew McIntyre in the eye is Damian Priest. Damian Priest is obviously on the ascendancy. I don't know how they're going to play with this, with Priest going over to SmackDown and Drew, as far as I know, still being on Raw. But a couple cross-promotional matches, it's fine. The behind-the-scenes stuff aside, it's a match I want to see. It's a match I'd like to see again. I know we've seen it before. Kind of a bummer if Drew is kind of looking down on this, like he's better than it or whatever, because he had the best story going coming off of last year, the stuff with Punk and whatever. But raise the guy up. And I'm not saying sorry guys, I'm not saying Damian Priest is some charity case that needs to be taken by the hand, but I mean, Drew McIntyre is established. He won the title at WrestleMania, even though nobody was there to see it, unfortunately, COVID, etc., etc. He won the title again this year at WrestleMania, although he was cashed in on after the fact, but that cash-in was by Damian Priest. So, there's a story to be told here, and I really don't know why Drew McIntyre would look down his nose at that. If that's true. If it's not true, and he's just pissed off that the Royal Rumble didn't go according to plan because he does want it to be really good, then that's cool, that's pride in your work, but also it's the Rumble, shit happens, and just going on a rant about, other people needed to get their shit in, isn't going to solve anything in the aftermath, is it? It's a match I want to see. I hope the behind the scenes stuff dissipates between the two of them and they can do something really, really great. Now, no story whatsoever other than the fact that both of them are kind of creepy in the loosest ways possible. Also, you'd have to do a trade from SmackDown, from Raw to SmackDown to make this work. Maybe Priest comes back to Raw and we send Penta to SmackDown, because I've got Penta challenging Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. Now, Penta just went face-to-face this week with Braun Breaker, implying that he wanted a shot at the IC title, but we'll get to that in a second. Penta versus Shinsuke Nakamura would be a clash of styles. It would be a lot of fun. There would be a lot of production put into it. WrestleMania level production going into Penta and Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura is doing this sort of Dark Samurai thing. Penta is doing good Penta things, as my buddy Guapo would say. And I think the match would be great. Penta picking up the US title would make people on the other side of the line look at him and be like, man, look how they're treating him. Maybe I'll go over there too. Maybe the contrast would be stark. Maybe he could rise like a phoenix. Just putting it out there. His days wouldn't feel so black. Just saying. I think the match would be fantastic. There is no story right now. Absolutely none. This is one of the ones that I'm picking out of the lottery tumbler and saying, I want this match because I want to see it. The opposite of that is the Intercontinental Championship that Sheamus has gone for a bunch of times versus Braun Breaker. The obvious thing here is for Sheamus to put something more important on the line than the IC title to get one more shot at it. It's cliche, it's overdone, it's a stereotype of wrestling at this point, but Sheamus versus Braun Breaker, Intercontinental Championship versus Sheamus's career. Obviously, Sheamus gets the big win on the big night, picks up the one title that he's never picked up before, and it's just a happy ending, and Braun Breaker is Teflon at this point. It's absolutely fine. If you want to take Tama and Fatu out of the tag match that I talked about earlier, you could make this a brutal-ass triple threat match by throwing in Jacob Fatu into there. The unfortunate thing about that is with the popularity of Jacob Fatu right now, you might have a couple people poo-pooing if he doesn't win, which is going to take away from Sheamus's nice moment, which is why I didn't do it. But it is another option that's there for us as well. John Cena is going to go for the championship, but not the championship you think. He's not going for the world title. He's not going for the WWE title. He's going to say somebody's name, and they will appear. Now, if you followed me in the past little while, by myself, that's a sentence, and Jake as well, when we're doing State of Wrestling, when we're doing reviews, previews, etc., we are absolutely drooling over the NXT-NA connection. But let's not forget at the end of the day that the NXT-NA connection exists because there is a working relationship with TNA and WWE as a whole. Now, what's happened? What have I said? What has Jake said in various conversations, various prologues and shorts and clips and everything that we've talked about? In this relationship, in this working relationship between the companies, somebody is going to win somebody else's title. Now, it might be Fandango winning the Heritage Cup and taking it to the system, which gives me a brain tumor a little bit, but we can talk about that on a different day. I would absolutely love to see John Cena lose at the Rumble, come up short, lose at the Chamber, come up short. Well, I gotta fight for a title. Say his name, he appears, da-da-da-da-da. Joe Hendry has been saying John Cena's name since he announced his retirement tour. This match would be so much fun. I don't think John Cena is going to win the TNA title, but to see the titles fought for back and forth. Jordan Grace, who I'm going to talk about later, don't you worry, came to NXT, to an NXT pay-per-view to fight for an NXT title. Many, many women from NXT have gone over to TNA to fight for the Knockouts title in open challenges, mostly hosted by Jordan Grace. Currently, Fraxium are on a run of tag team title defenses in TNA. Let's defend the TNA championship on the biggest stage WWE has. Let's put it in big, bold lights. Let's solidify this working relationship in concrete. And what can you do more than a match with John Cena at WrestleMania for your TNA champion? I think it would be a lot of fun. Joe Hendry would give John Cena something different to bounce off of. Even if you want to make Cena into an asshole and be like, oh, I can't even fight for any of our titles, I guess I'll pick up whatever I can get. They're not going to turn John Cena heel, but that is a direction they could go. It's his last year in the company, after all. Seeing whatever it's going to... I mean, they got 70,000 people there for the Rumble. Who knows how many people are going to be there for WrestleMania. Singing along, clapping along with Joe Hendry. They could do some ridiculous, extravagant entrance. He could do one of his custom videos about John Cena, and it would be the funniest thing since the Wyatt Funhouse match, where basically they ripped apart his whole career. There's nothing bad about this, and you have to have some TNA content on your WWE programming for how much they've put their NXT talents on TNA programming. Now, with that being said, a promise that was made by Jordan Grace when the announcement was made of the working relationship between TNA and WWE was, I bet we see an Ultimate X at WrestleMania. Now, I don't have Jordan Grace in this. If you're going to do an Ultimate X at WrestleMania, it has to be for the X Division Championship. So, this is the only other one. I said Chemical X and Fatal Influence was the only real NXT showcase that I had on this show, which is true. What I want to do here, and I don't know who exactly would be in it. I have a good idea of who would be in it. Get a couple of NXT talents mixing in with a couple TNA talents. Get your Ace Austins, your Zachary Wentz's, your Trey Miguel's, and then on the other side of the coin, get your Wesley's, obviously. Javon Evans, obviously. Maybe Frazier and or Axiom as well, seeing as I'm not having an NXT tag title match on this card. They could be coming off of Stand and Deliver, oi, 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 and going right into an X Division Championship match at WrestleMania. How cool would that be? Ultimate X as a concept is amazing. I would love to see it in a stadium. I think that would be fucking ridiculous. Now, caveat to this is, if they do Ultimate X, this has to be the year that they resist the temptation to put a ladder match at WrestleMania, because ever since they took Money in the Bank and made it its own pay-per-view, they've always found a way to have some kind of ladder match at WrestleMania. Now, that's not a bad thing, especially last year with the tag titles, A-Town Down Under, as well as Miz and R-Truth having really cool moments separating those tag titles in the ladder matches. Absolutely fine. Intercontinental title matches that have had really, really great endings and all that kind of thing. But it has become the cliche that even though Money in the Bank is its own pay-per-view now, we're still going to have a ladder match at WrestleMania. If you're going to do Ultimate X at WrestleMania, which is the next step above a ladder match, resist the urge to at all have a ladder match at WrestleMania. But yeah, Ultimate X, John Cena going for the TNA title. I think those two things combined, put one on each night, you know, a little bit of TNA here, a little bit of TNA there, a little bit more NXT because it's me. Really, really strong step in the right direction, and a strong step to solidifying this working relationship that WWE has with TNA that certain negative people out there that may be fans of other companies seem to be so dead set against. Oh yes. Let's get back to our regular scheduled WWE now, and Chelsea Green needs an opponent for the United States Championship over on SmackDown. Now, people are saying the obvious thing is to have Chelsea Green and Piper Niven split and have that match be something. Problem with that is somebody has to win. Chelsea Green is really popular. Piper Niven I would love to see get a push, but if they push her as a face against heel Chelsea Green, she's going to get booed because people love Chelsea Green. So instead, put her in there with somebody who's currently helping out NXT towards their next pay-per-view and can help Chelsea Green no end and will not in the slightest be hurt by a loss or some silliness or maybe something that doesn't quite go everybody's way, and that's Bayley. Bayley's chasing different gold at the moment. As I'm recording this, she's heading to Vengeance Day to take on Julia and Roxanne Perez, who's also probably coming out to the main roster soon. Let's be real for a second. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to solidify Julia. Spoiler. But yeah, let's have Bayley go back to the main roster, get mocked for not being able to get a title anywhere. And then she just says, fine, why don't I go beat up Chelsea Green? Ding dong, hello, or some shit like that. Chelsea Green doing her sort of pseudo-patriotic red, white, and green thing, the presidential thing that she's doing. It's not quite as funny as Mustafa Ali's presidential thing, but that's because he's like an actual heel that's actually getting booed, and he's leaning a little harder into a couple of things. Piper Niven doing her secret service. I don't know how they pronounce it, but they put the word she into service, and because she's the secret service, blah blah blah. Could be fun on the outside. Bayley could be, selling the babyface that has to deal with the 2-on-1 advantage. I just think Bayley and Chelsea would be a cool match, and it would be a lot. Bayley would bring a lot to elevate the status of the United States Championship. Even if she wins it and holds it, means somebody's got to beat her for it, which means the next U.S. title holder after her would be the person that took it off of one of the 3 relevant horsewomen, which would be great for everybody. Speaking of the 3 relevant horsewomen, you'll notice there's a pattern here. Becky Lynch is going to come back. She's going to say hi to her old friend Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria still has the Women's Intercontinental Championship. They have a friendly feud, the old lion and the young lion, and, the teacher versus the student. Very, very much, yes, it would be very, very similar to Finn and JD. Put them on 2 different nights, it's fine. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria renewing their friendly rivalry from NXT when Becky went down there to hold the NXT title. And basically, she can come down there and say, respectfully, all the respect in the world, you held that NXT title after you won it from me. How about you give me a shot at that one? It could be a lot of fun. Why don't we make some headlines at WrestleMania? Again, it'll be a great match. Again, we've seen them wrestle before. Becky Lynch is not exactly a selfish person in the ring. She made Lyra look like $1 million for. Goes without saying, by the way, and we're going to talk about Tiffany Stratton in a second. Becky, when she was down there in, I hate saying down there, but when she was back in NXT for a bit, made Lyra Valkyria look like $1 million, made Tiffany Stratton look like $1 million. Look where Tiffany Stratton is right now. Again, we're going to talk about that in a second. Becky and Lyra, again, you could have Whereas one way or another, Finn Balor and JD McDonough are going to have a rift between them. I think you could play a face versus face respectfully. Like, I've never held that title. I'd love a shot at it. Yeah, you're my mentor. I'd love to give you a shot at it. Let's go. On the other side of that coin is Tiffany Stratton that I just mentioned, who's the WWE champion, who's very, 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 very obviously going to be challenged by Charlotte. Now, they've done a really weird thing with Charlotte in real life, and she's hinting that she might not decide what title she's going for until the WrestleMania go-home show. Now, that's a really interesting thing for a heel to say in the sense of being cocky. From a practical point of view, it doesn't make any sense, because then the women, why are we beeping? Why is this a thing? The women that are fighting in the Elimination Chamber, yes, I'm biased, I'm going to be there, have I mentioned that, don't know what title they're fighting for, which is a plot hole there. Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany, for all the identical and opposite reasons of Becky and Lyra, instead of being respectful, having a handshake, and let's have a good match, Charlotte and Tiffany could try to out-heel each other. I've always said, you know, people say, oh, you know, stories make matches and all that. You have to have a good guy and a bad guy. No, you don't. You can have a respectful match between two babyfaces, not a problem. And you can also have two heels saying who can be a bigger dick to the other. I always said, and people are going to hate me mentioning them in the same breath, but you get prime dirtiest player in the game, Ric Flair, and prime lie, cheat, and steal Eddie Guerrero in a match against each other, just to see who can be the bigger dick, who can play the most tricks, who can manipulate the ref the worst, who can cheat the most, all that kind of stuff. You could get that vibe in a much different way. Relax. You could get that vibe with Charlotte and Tiffany, because if you had Rick and you had Eddie these days, people would still get behind Eddie because they find his cheating and his Healy ways kind of endearing. People these days, you know, oh, Ric Flair should die and be thrown in a hole and whatever. So you could do the same thing with Charlotte here. People, you know, it's Charlotte. How dare you be white, blonde, and successful and have an unpopular dad? Nobody's ever going to give her the time of day ever. She went out on Raw and tried to talk about her year and a half of injury and recovery, and they booed her because people are stupid. But Tiffany Stratton, on the other hand, is also playing that prissy daddy's boy Barbie girl heel, and people love it because people love her. You could have that Rick and Eddie dynamic with Charlotte and Tiffany, and I think we will. I think we will see that play out. I think we will see Charlotte cheat, get booed, Tiffany cheat, get cheered, and that dynamic will be a lot of fun to play with. And I've said it since Tiffany debuted, look past the Barbie doll gimmick that she does so well. She's a hell of a wrestler. She's a hell of an athlete. The prettiest moonsault ever is fucking phenomenal. Charlotte, I know the world and all the politics tells you you're not supposed to like her, but whoever your favorite wrestler is, and I include all my favorites in this, whoever your favorite wrestler is, even that one had their best matches with Charlotte Flair. This, even if you can't stand Charlotte Flair, this is going to be awesome for Tiffany Stratton. Now, I'm digging down on this one because I want to see it. And also, we know it's pretty much going to happen. She's doing the tour right now. Oh, I'm going to go over to Raw. I'm going to go over to NXT. I'm going to go over to SmackDown, and then I'll make my decision. That's fine. Because Rhea Ripley has a different opponent in mind. Now, a lot of people have said Io. I've got Io in the tag match. A lot of people have said Bianca Belair. And I have said no. Royal Rumble last... Yeah, I don't care. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair is a waste of Rhea Ripley. It is. Fight me. Rhea Ripley versus the woman that debuted in the Royal Rumble last year and returned to the Royal Rumble this year as a member of the WWE roster, Rhea Ripley, Jordynne Grace. Story writes itself. Two big muscle mommies gonna beat the absolute shit out of each other. It is the female version of Big E's famous two big meaty men slapping man meat. I'm not going to try and come up with a female equivalent of that because it'll be really rude, and I don't want to get, not demonetized because I don't make money, but I don't want to get kicked off the platform because YouTube is like that and Spotify is apparently like that to some people. Thank God I have Rumble. Anyways, Grace and Ripley writes itself. I've wanted to see it since last year. This is a selfish one for me. I don't care who wins. I would love to see Jordynne Grace because of how long she spent in TNA and other places, and I do love recently that she did come out. For those of you that think I'm going to be super tribal against AEW, I only do it when they deserve it. She was the one that came out and thanked Cody Rhodes and all the people involved in the first All In, because it was after her performance at All In that she was called by TNA and she got her first deal with them, which then brought her to WWE's attention, I guess. And and we go from there. Following in the footsteps of Mickie James, who showed up the previous year as the Impact Knockouts champion in the Rumble. She then did it with the TNA Knockouts championship, and now as a proper signed WWE competitor after losing a match to Tessa Blanchard, which made everybody angry. Tessa Blanchard is another one I'd love to see in WWE. I know that pisses everybody off, but that's another story for another day. Jordynne Grace, Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship would be amazing. Jey Uso is going to pick Gunther. We all know it. I do want to see Sami Zayn involved in this at some point. I just don't know how. He went for Gunther and then beat him for the IC title last year. I'm sure he would have loved to do the same thing for the world title this year, but that didn't happen. He got kicked by Jey. Does Sami turn heel? Is there Kevin Owens stuff afoot? I haven't booked Kevin Owens in a match either. So let's just say Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn opening match on night one, because we know it'll be awesome and you don't even have to really tell the story. But I'd love to see Sami Zayn involved in the Jey story at some point, wanting to be happy for his buddy, but jealousy kind of taking over. And if he's going to have Kevin Owens whispering in his ear, drawing him to the heel ranks, seeing his buddy get a spot that he thinks should be his, could be a very interesting thing to play with. Could be something for them to play with post-Mania. Jey versus a heel Sami in a singles run after he wins the title, because I do predict he's going to win the title. Does Sami Zayn get his first shot at the world title against his former ally in Jey Uso? Does Sami Uso not feel Usi? I hate myself for saying it. It's fine. So what's the main event? I already told you The Rock and Roman and Rollins aren't on my card. Put any combination of them you want. Do Rock and Roman, finally. People want to see it. I want to see it. It's just not in the forefront of my mind. Rollins and Roman is a story you can pick up and blow off anytime, giggity. But I'm an asshole. And I am spiteful. And I am cranky. And I am tribal, or so I've been told, and not in the tribal chief way. I'm a toxic wrestling fan, and I am competitive, and I do have my biases, and I wear my biases on my sleeve, and I do want to tell Tony Khan and all of AEW to go fuck themselves. So yes, not only for that reason, but for the fact that it is the biggest story WWE can tell right now. Yes, I'm saying over the Bloodline. Even though the Bloodline has absorbed everything in the past, 5 years. This is the biggest story you can tell above and beyond the Bloodline, with the two most talked about, most discussed, most debated characters they have on that roster. You do. After he wins the Elimination Chamber in my hometown, with me in the building, because they put the chamber in the dome, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, WWE Championship, Cody turning heel, Punk staying face, Punk beating the AEW surrogate in WWE as a babyface, and walking out of the main event of WrestleMania with the WWE Championship. Yes, please. Yes, please. Finish the story. That's the last letter of the last word of the last sentence, and that sentence says, fuck you. Oh, yes. Also, the match is going to be fantastic. The storytelling is going to be fantastic. The promos they cut on each other a year ago versus the promos they cut on each other a week ago. There's nothing this match can't be. Don't gimmick it. Don't throw other people into it. Don't debate whether it should be the main event of night one or the main event of night two. The last match we need to see, after the ascension of Cody Rhodes last year, which was fantastic, which got me on the Cody train, which I will use their vernacular, took Cody Rhodes from undesirable in my mind to undeniable. Everybody was a Cody guy that night. I said it on the night. I'm not really a Cody guy, but tonight everybody's a Cody guy. Guess what? 1 year later, because fuck AEW, because fuck Tony Khan, because fuck Jack Perry and Hangman Page and anybody else you want to mention who want to make him such a bad guy. No. You turn Cody the bad guy because he's going to be the surrogate for AEW. You have CM Punk, the good guy, the white knight, the guy that walks off into the sunset with the white hat on with the WWE Championship after beating Cody Rhodes. Because it's time. And there are other stories to finish. Oh yes. Anyways, that is my fantasy booking for a WrestleMania story. WrestleMania 41 that's definitely not going to happen. Tell me what you loved. Tell me what you hated. Tell me what you want to see at WrestleMania, no matter how ridiculous it is, because you've seen how ridiculous I've been here. I've had a lot of fun doing this. I am losing my voice, unfortunately. Normal programming should resume as quickly as possible as soon as we get some technological stuff figured out. So again, shout out to my co-host Jake DeMarco. Go show him some love on Twitter at CountdownEnded. Anyways, you know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.